Yeah.
I forgot that we had a shirt week. I'm really quickly off.
We can tell by your Rice University shirt, but that's okay. It's all right. Okay.
How many people participated?
Yeah, we had a lot of rock stuff
Yeah, but
yesterday.
how many people really listen to rock and roll?
We're over here. There we go.
Can borrow a t-shirt from somebody?
Yeah. All right. So real quickly, let's answer number 6, and then we'll get to our Skittles activity, and we'll do our lab together today. So we're going to cover learning target number 6, which is up here on the 4 definitions. And then we'll do our Skittles lab together. So you'll have your lab knocked out. If you do notice, the quiz date has been moved back, so it's a week from today. So tomorrow on Virtual Wednesday, we'll do 7 and 8 on your learning targets, which will be statistics. And then Friday, we'll do 9 and 10. And then I'll also add your one name to the unit that you need to know. And then you should be ready to go, okay? So the only thing you should be working on when you're not here now is your vocab for the chapter and then your vocab assignment, which you can, again, do in groups and so on and so forth. All right, let me read number 6 to you real quick if you want to write it down. I'm summarizing. But number 6 says, predict the validity of research based on its design. Okay, so predict the validity of research based on its design. Okay, predict the validity of the research based on its design. Okay. All right, now validity actually is a vocab term in the chapter, so you should have experience with that or you will be defining it. This is my definition that I always use. So validity is, if something is valid, it means it measures what it's supposed to measure, okay? All right, so whether in psychology we use tests, okay, so personality test, intelligence test. The big one now is an EQ test, which is social intelligence test. All right, if I take those, I want to make sure that the test is really accurately measuring whatever it is that it's supposed to be measuring. All right, does everybody know the difference between extrovert and introvert? Okay, so if I take a personality test, and I think most people would agree that if you're an E, you're always an E. If you're an I, you're always an I. Now, the degree of E and I might change. So if I know that and I take a personality test and it gives me an E, hopefully every time I take that test, it's going to give me an E, right? I'm just going to rate me as an extrovert. Okay, that would mean that it's valid. Okay, and well, actually, that means it's reliable. All right, but it's valid if it really is measuring extrovert versus introvert. Okay, so does the test, does the research? So we did gender effects on spatial reasoning. Okay, are we really measuring spatial reasoning? Okay, validity with that would be pretty high because we did origami, which is considered a spatial reasoning test. Today we're going to do Mozart music versus intelligence. Okay, but are we, validity on this one's a little bit shaky because are we really measuring intelligence? Today, I think you could argue we're just measuring memory. So does that equal intelligence or is it just one part of it? Okay, now a test that you're all familiar with probably is the ACT, correct? Right? It struggles with validity. There are validity questions about that test because it's supposed to measure, it's supposed to be a predictor of your success in college, correct? It's supposed to measure college readiness and success in college. A lot of people say that that's not really what it measures. Okay, it measures if you're a good test taker, if you're intelligent. Okay, there's other factors that are in that. Okay, so the validity is in question. Reliability means that if I take the test or I do the research, I'm going to get the same results each time. Okay. All right. Now, the ACT has very high test reliability, meaning that they generally know that after you take it 3 times, it's plus or minus 3. So if I take the ACT and get a 22, 23, and a 25, ACT knows probably, I think it's within 95% reliability that your high score is going to be 28, your low score is going to be 22. And 95% of all test takers fall in that range. So it is reliable on its scoring. Okay, but is it really measuring what we want it to measure? Okay, which is why before COVID, did everybody hear that colleges were removing that requirement from their admissions? Okay, so that was happening before COVID. So I think some people are they're really struggling with this part of it. Okay, now validity can then be divided up into 2 parts. I have internal and external, and they really are just simply what they mean. Internal validity means internal, the process, my design, my procedure, how I do the study, the actual test itself, Okay, is that valid? Is it done well? Does it have integrity? Okay, and external validity then is who do my results apply to? The more people that my results can apply to, the higher my external validity. Now, generally though, if I do a study and I start this one, this is the one I'm really concerned about, okay? I want my study to have internal validity. This one's kind of out of my control. This is what we're going to show on the Skittles activity, okay? So the Skittles, we're going to look at specifically the difference between random selection and random assignment, and then also external validity, okay? Because if I'm truly choosing my subjects randomly and dividing them randomly, do I kind of lose control of this a little bit? I do, okay? I kind of just give up control and I just have to kind of accept what happens. But then the goal is that other people will replicate my study and reproduce it. And then after 100 replications, hopefully I'll have something, okay? But as we are learning to think scientifically and critically, and I did it this weekend, I heard a study. Somebody quoted a study, and I'm not going to say what it was, but immediately, okay, has the study been replicated? It had been replicated 3 times, but it was done on rats, and they were applying it to humans. Now, in psychology, do we do research on rats?
No.
Yeah, well, we do because their brains are very close to ours, and they're very smart, and unfortunately, I can treat a rat a little bit more unethically than I could a human, right? But still, is that an external validity issue? You know, you can't just make a leap from rats to humans. I mean, there are certain things in there that we need to look at. This one could actually have been done on humans. They just weren't doing it yet. Okay, so, you know, that's where I want you to go. If you hear anybody say a recent study found this, see if it's replicated, reproduced, and then, because I want you to learn to do them. I don't know. This is kind of scientific. You kind of don't. I'm going to wail on one, and I'm live streaming. I don't want to say it. There you go. Okay. So results of research. Then I want to see who is it done on. Okay. Who is involved in it. Okay. All right. So everybody get out your bag of Skittles. And if you don't have Skittles, you can ask somebody to share with you, or you can do the questions with that person. Okay. Okay, and then this is on Canvas. All right, so we're just going to walk through this together. Okay, so the first thing is we need to randomly select some Skittles to be in our study from our population of the bag.
Are we done with our AP numbers?
No. No, actually, I'd put this in there. So yeah, turn to a sheet of paper, write down Skittles Lab on it, and we're going to do that together in class, and then you can just take a picture of it and send it to me. All right, and we'll go down it together, okay? So you're going to be opening up your Skittles, and what you need to do is just randomly dump some Skittles on your sheet of paper there. You can dump them on your desk if you want, but it just needs to be random, okay? It needs to be random. So this is going to be our random selection process, okay? So you're going to dump a random amount of Skittles on your sheet of paper or your desk. That's right. Yep, save them. If they're dropping, save them.
That one's way up there, Maggie.
It's always those orange ones that are trying to get away. Okay. All right, so now was that pretty random? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty random. You didn't look at them, you just dumped them out of your bag onto your sheet of paper. So you've randomly selected the Skittles for your experiment, right? Everybody got it? Okay. Now, hopefully the Skittles that you have on your sheet of paper will represent the Skittles in your bag. Oddly enough, we do not know how many Skittles come in your bag because if you flip it over and look at it, it does it by weight. So it doesn't do it by total number, which we found out yesterday. So now I can tell you that there is not the same amount of Skittles in every bag because we actually did a little You know those little ones you get like for Halloween, those little packages or whatever? Yeah.
Sometimes you get like 8, sometimes you get like 6.
Yes. And actually yesterday was anywhere between 10 and 16 that we had. So that's a pretty big difference. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been getting ripped off.
Yes, you have. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. All right.
Usually.
Now,
From all my hand go.
okay. So number one, you're going to write down, you're going to demograph your Skittles sample. So you're going to tell me how many of each color you have in your sample and the total number in your sample. So I want to know, again, there are 5 colors in the Skittle rainbow. So you have red, purple, orange, green, and yellow. So hopefully you at least have one of every color, but I can see now that some people don't, which is fine because it's random, correct? So if you have 4 colors, you're missing 1. If you have 3, you're missing 2. Looks like everybody has around 4. Yesterday, we had a lot of missing of green and purple. Those are the ones that we were. Yeah, you do. Okay, then once you have the demographics done of your Skittles, okay, so once you have them broken up to how many you have, all right, then I want you to circle on your lab which ones have the most, that most likely your studies apply to. Okay, so here we have green, obviously. So she actually has all 5 colors, but she has so many green that that's pretty much the proportion that she's going to have to use. So think of it this way. If I do a study at Liberty North High School and I have 100 seniors, 100 juniors, 100 sophomores, and then 20 freshmen, does that study even apply to the freshmen? It doesn't. It's not in proportion. So, you know, I do have them represented, but not enough to where it's going to be the same proportion as the other 3 grades. Okay. All right. Now, so let's see, hopefully, how many people have at least 1 color represented? So you have a lot of 1 color. Okay. How many people can represent 2? 3? 4? Okay. And 5. Did anybody get all 5 really represented proportionally? No. Okay, so we have 4, right? Okay. All right. So again, and when we talk in external validity, my study only applies to who is in my study. Okay, so right now, by itself, we don't have any study that can represent all the colors. All right, we'd have to, again, use them all together as different trials. All right, so number 2 then, go ahead and mix your Skittles back up. It's okay. Now you need to randomly assign this group this sample into 2 groups. Okay, so find a way to randomly divide your sample into 2 groups and then demograph those groups. Okay, so we need a experimental group and a control group.
So if I have an odd number.
That's fine, right? Yeah, because if it's random, do the numbers have to be the same? No, they don't. Now they can be, but they don't have to be. All right, so then write down how many Skittles you have in each group and what colors. Yep. We're doing a nice size sample over here.
Did you see the bag you brought in? I've shared with 3 other people.
I know, this is good. But you just, you're just looking for to get it.
Yeah, I think I have all 5 represented.
I think you did. You're all between 7 and 9 and 6. Or is that what?
That's
Well, 10. That's only happened one other time today where people actually had pretty much all 5 represented. But you get paid lots of money for that study then.
We're getting paid for a Skittles study?
As if it was real, he'd be getting paid. The rest of us probably wouldn't. Not for the first study. Bless you. All right, so how many people can see an issue with your division of your groups? Where, yeah, the colors are disproportionate even more sometimes, okay? Okay, so random selection is selecting my group, So that was when I dumped out and selected my Skittles from the Skittles bag. Random assignment is then once I have my sample, my group, I'm going to divide them into 2 or more groups. Okay. And how do I do that? Now, we pretty much did it random. Okay. Which is what we want. But if I do it randomly, does it hurt external validity? Yeah. Yeah, because it's random, right? So each time I'm doing this randomly, I'm probably decreasing external validity, but that's just kind of what we accept in research. Okay, again, the goal is to keep this internal validity done well with high integrity. This we know. If I keep it truly random, you know, my subjects are probably not going to represent a huge population. Now, could we have all manipulated this? Could you gone into your bag and pulled out 5 of each color?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then when I divided them, you could have divided them in a way to where every color was in the group. And you can do that in research. So that does increase external validity, but does it decrease internal validity? Yeah, because I've manipulated the process. So in research, we pretty much choose to keep internal validity high if we can. Okay. And then let external validity go low. And then what we hope is that then what we hope is that everybody will replicate my study, correct? And then at the end of 100 replications, I'll have a huge sample that will hopefully represent a bigger population, okay? All right, so then write down number 1, 2, and 3 down at the bottom. So number 1 is, does your group, go back to number 1, represent the entire populations of Skittles in your bag? The answer to that almost is always going to be what?
No.
Yeah, it's always going to be no, except on this case, I think we do have one that's a yes, which is only the second time that that's happened since I've been doing this. So that's all A day and this half a B day, okay? So it can happen, but usually it doesn't. Okay, then number 2 is who specifically do your results apply? So that's going to be the color of the Skittles that you represent. So like yours is going to be green, right? So it's going to be whoever you circled up on number 1. That's going to be who your results would actually apply to.
That's the guy with the most.
Yes. So then you look at your answer to number 2 to judge how high your external validity is. If you can say all 5 Skittles, you've got a high external validity, which would be our 1 study over here. Everybody else is going to be low, correct? It looked like the most we could have would be 3. Okay, so you're going to have low external validity, which again, in real research design is okay if it was done truly in random. That's probably what's going to happen. Yes, Karen?
No, which would apply.
The ones that you have the greatest amount of on number 1.
Okay.
So the ones that you circled, the ones that had the biggest number, the biggest proportion, those are going to be the ones in which it would apply to.
Okay.
And go ahead and read your numbers of colors over here.
I've got 10 orange, 7 yellow, 8 purple, 9 green, and 9 red.
Okay, so he's between 7 and 10, right? That's a pretty good proportion, and he has all 5. So that would be all different colors of Skittles are represented in that study, and they're pretty proportionate. So that's going to be high external validity.
Did you manipulate it?
Nope.
He did not, which is why he'd be paid a lot of money if he did that research design. Okay, yes, Karen.
So if I have 4 of every color except for yellow has 2. So that'd be high or low?
So the other 4 you have 4 of. Yeah, so that'd be pretty high because you got 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so number 3, based on the information, external validity, high or low. So just write down high or low on yours, okay? And again, we did it randomly, so you're not graded on if you got external validity high or low, okay? All right?
We've got to take a picture of this and send it to
Yeah.
him.
Now, here's a couple of things. So go ahead and write down by your name if you brought Skittles, okay? So if you brought your own bag of Skittles, make sure you write that down. And then number 2, put period 4 on there or 4th hour, whatever, because we need to start putting the hour on there until I've really learned everybody's names, which I will do much better after tennis is over. Okay. And the other thing I'm going to ask with our turn in your vocab assignment and your lab at the same time. Does that make sense? So even though you have your lab today, I don't want it until you get your vocab assignment done. okay, which isn't due till the 13th. Because it was hard for me to keep track, but also I had some students actually who are still emailing me Case of Carol for the first unit because they just didn't send it to me. Now I knew we did it in class together, but they didn't send it. They just sent me the vocab. And they're like, well, I thought I sent it to you. And I was like, no, I didn't get it. So yeah, so we just need to make sure you send them both together. That's why you know that you sent them both. Okay. And then we can easily find it and track it. Because I can make a mistake, but if they're both together, then hopefully I won't make the mistake as much. And then you'll know. Okay. All right. Who was able to watch the video?
Their video, where was it?
It was on Twitter, which the sub was supposed to tell you.
No, she said
Yeah,
Canvas,
that's
bro.
what it
Yeah,
is.
I know.
She said Canvas.
Yeah, she did.
I don't have Twitter, so is there another way to potentially post stuff?
You don't have to have Twitter. You just need to follow me, and then it'll go to your text.
No.
So there's directions on Canvas on how to do that. Okay. So all you do is you text like the 40404 follow space at LNAP Psych, and so then everything I put on Twitter will just go to your text. Okay. All right. So the video link is there. Now again, I think it's important to at least to make sure you follow it because again, I send out notes, pictures of notes, and I send out the video there. The video is actually really good. It's from Bang Goes the Theory, which is the UK version of like Brain Games. And what they do is they do the Mozart effect study. So briefly, I'll summarize it. You can watch it, but we're going to do a version of that here. So people come they're in a square in the UK, like a big public square. And I think it's the Royal Opera House, I think in Covington. So they come out of there and then they've got this experiment set up. They've got Mozart music, rock music, and silence. Okay. So what they're going to do is the participants who volunteer do a spatial reasoning test, a memory test, and a reaction time test. Then they go into this pod and they listen to one of the three musics, okay, or silence. Sorry, Mozart, rock, or silence. Then they come out and they do the same test again, and they want to see if they go up the second time, right? Okay. Now, in that study, what's my dependent variable? The what? Yes. Okay. So but what am I measuring specifically by the test scores? They're calling it intelligence, right? Okay. So I'm measuring so basically I'm measuring memory. So he's correct. I'm measuring memory, reaction time, and spatial reasoning, but I'm grouping those together and calling them intelligence, right? Mozart music, how does it affect intelligence? Okay. I always think it's easier to find the dependent variable first, and then you go up here and say, okay, what influences intelligence? And that is the music, correct? Right? Okay. Now, what's the control variables? Because actually I have one independent variable and then I have two controls in that study. What are my two controls? Silence and the rock music. The rock would be a placebo, correct? It's a different type of Mozart music or fake Mozart, okay? Now, confounding variables. And those are simply, after I do my study, confounding variables are variables that influence the results that I wasn't planning on, okay? I'm hoping that when I do my study, the only thing that influences the results is the rock or is the Mozart music, correct? But what could influence the results already that we should know? Okay. Right. Are you taking the same test twice? So should you get better the second time? Yeah. So we have the practice effect. All right. How many people would feel uncomfortable the first time, but more comfortable the second time? Yeah, everybody. So you have the comfortableness factor, confidence would go up. So we have a whole list of things that probably influence the results, cause people to go up, but it wasn't the music. Yes. Okay. So you can eat them. All right. Okay. And then based on what I just described, was there random selection? Did they randomly select those subjects? Did everybody even coming out of the Royal Opera House have an equal chance to be in the study? Maybe. Okay. Probably not. Right. Probably it was just whoever came out and wandered over to the experiment. And if you watch the video, you'll see it. Okay. So,
but everybody has an equal chance of doing it. They just chose.
well, but they're selecting people at random. So if you're like, say you come out and you go that way, I'm probably not going to run you down. I'm just going to get the people that come here. Okay. And you can definitely see that it's very skewed in the video. There's more males than there are females. Okay. So, random selection. Now, random assignment was done. Once they selected them, then they actually divided them randomly. But if there's any type of qualifier, okay, we don't have random selection. So basically, number one, did you have to be at the Opera House that day to be a part of the study? Yeah, so that just eliminates it right there, okay? All right, so we're going to do a version of this test, all right? So everybody have a place that you can write on your sheet of paper.
On our lab or
Just anywhere else, that's fine, okay? And then I'm gonna have to borrow the screen. All right, so here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna start our Mozart music, and then you're gonna do 3 memory tasks, okay? So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna flash on the screen a picture of random numbers and letters, okay? You get to look at it for 5 seconds. I'm gonna take it off. Then you have to wait 10 seconds, all right? And then I'm gonna say go, and then you're gonna write down as many letters and numbers as you can remember, okay? Now, I'm gonna start the Mozart music right before trial 1, and then hopefully by trial 3, I'm gonna get the scores. So as you can see, we've actually gone up, and we're kind of mirroring the same thing as the A days, where a third hour might be the largest score, okay? So if I'm streaming to you, then I have no idea what the screen's gonna look like. Okay, so let's start our Mozart music. See if we can get louder here. There we go. That's a popular one. We know that one. Okay. All right. Okay, so you're gonna look at it for 5 seconds. Okay, now wait. Go. So if you're watching this, they're just writing down the answers that they remember. And you have 30 seconds to write them down, so I'll wait before you do trial 2. And here's kind of what they're doing. Okay, are we ready? Trial 2, put your pen or pencil down. So that's kind of what they're looking at. Okay, wait. Go. Okay, pen or pencil down, trial 3. All right, wait. Go. All right, so what we're gonna hope for is if there is a Mozart effect, should you get better as you go? So that's what we're gonna hope. So what you need to do here are your answers. Just write down how many you got correct, total. So you can go through and just circle them. This is trial 1.
No, but that was also the same as trial 3.
Very good.
So I just wrote those next to the ones.
Okay, so just go ahead and grade them. Go ahead and grade them. And is that a confounding variable? Did I mess up the pictures? I did. Okay, so in research, that definitely would be a confounding variable in that I messed up. I sent the same picture. Okay, and I actually have 3 sheets. I was trying to take a picture of all 3, but I must have mixed them up. Okay, so that's a confounding variable. Now, in research, though, do I need to just continue on with the research and fix it and then just replicate it? Like I figured this out after A-Day, but I'm not going to change it. B-Day needs to do the same procedure, okay? And then I'll change it later, or when I replicate it, hopefully, okay? Okay, here is picture 2. All right, and then make sure you go ahead and grade it. Here is picture 3. So total number correct. So there is actually 13 on each slide. I thought this might give it away.
It's the same. Well, I already had all the other ones written down, so you just look at the ones that you
And then added it on.
And then added.
Yeah, good.
I didn't realize we were supposed to write scratch. I added on to the first one.
That's fine. That's fine.
Well, even then, you have 30 seconds to write, and I was wondering if that same picture was going to come back.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would have already had all of those anyway, and then just got the ones I think.
Okay. So everybody look at trial 3. All right. It's 11. Okay, I want you to raise your hand if trial 3 was your best score.
What if I have the same score? Yeah.
It has to be your best score. Not the same, it has to be your best. Okay, so we have 7 out of 11. Okay, now, who only on trial 3, what was the high score? Was it 13 out of 13?
Yeah, I got 13 out.
I got 12.
Okay. Okay.
You guys were at 8. 8 was the only one.
Okay. All right. So that's a pretty good score. 7 out of 11. 7-11. Good. Okay. All right. Now, but does everybody know what type of music you were actually listening to? Yeah, very good. Okay. So you were actually listening to Beethoven. You were not listening to Mozart. So that makes you what group? Placebo group. Right. Okay. So over here, A days are Mozart, B days is a placebo control group, right? You're going to listen, they're listening to Beethoven. I thought that was a very famous Beethoven song. That's why I thought, oh, that's why I removed it back, because I thought people might figure that out.
That's why I realized.
Yeah, okay, so that's all. There's a confounding variable as well, okay? I messed up the music, okay? So this study is going to have a lot of internal validity problems, okay? All right. And external validity, okay? But if we go down, were you randomly selected for this study?
No.
Are there any qualifiers?
No.
Yes, which would make it no. So what's you originally said no random selection, which is correct.
Yeah.
So why? Did you have to qualify to be in this study? Yeah, you got to be in this class. Very good. All right. Not every class is doing the study. Okay. Now, did I randomly assign you into your 2 groups, A day and B day?
No.
Right. Very good. Thank you. And the school district didn't do it random because it's based on your last name. Very good. Okay. All right. So we have an independent variable, which is our music. This actually would only be memory, correct? Are we just measuring your short-term memory? Yeah. So we can't really, did everybody see the validity problem here? Is memory the only thing that makes up your intelligence? No. I mean, there's several factors. So we have a validity issue here. Okay. You were a placebo group. So we had Beethoven. Confounding variables will be all the mistakes that I made, as well as you getting the same picture. And also, how many people just think you naturally get better each time you did a memory test like that? Did you just get better and better as you went? Okay. Okay. No random assignment and no random selection. Okay. All right. Okay. So tomorrow, don't forget Virtual Wednesday. All right. It'll be on YouTube again, and we'll be doing learning targets 7 and 8, which will be statistics. All right. Let's take a blast from the past. Who remembers from elementary school mean, median, mode, and range? Okay. There you go, because it's stats. That's right. Now, who remembers standard deviation?
Yep. Doing that stats right now.
Good. Yeah, good. Oh, well, that's great. Perfect timing. Okay. So in psychology, you take social stats, but if you guys are doing that, you're going to be good. So in research, we just want to make sure our variance is low, right? Which is what those measure. Tendency, central tendency, all right? Okay, so I have no idea how that looked on YouTube, but hopefully it helped. Because I can only see my screen, but in YouTube,